Hey, this is Russ. Let's talk about throttles. Throttles. There's a couple of different types of throttles. There's the half twist throttle, then there's the thumb throttle, right? There's the right side throttle, there's the left side throttle, and there's those who don't use the throttle at all. Let's talk about that. So, when I got my first e-bike, I had a half twist throttle on the right hand side. You guys know what a half twist throttle is, right? Yeah, you kind of twist this thing with your hand. Yeah, it kind of takes up some space on your handlebar too. Yeah, it does. Usually on the left side you have a full hand grip. Well, you don't get a full hand grip if you have a throttle. You get a partial hand grip. So you tend to hold that thing with maybe two fingers. At least I do. My pinky and my ring finger on my right hand. All right. And then I use the other two fingers and the thumb to hold the half twist throttle. Okay. And then there's the thing called the thumb throttle, where you just kind of lean your hand up on the thing and use your thumb to push it down. Okay. Now some people prefer one, some people prefer the other. So now many of you know that I use a half twist throttle that has a thumb throttle attachment to it. And I had put a video together that showed you how you can actually 3D print one. But if you don't have a 3D printer, you can, of course, buy one on Etsy or eBay or some of the other places. Okay, I'll put a link to that video here, and then I'll also put a link to the file that you can download, and you can print your own 3D throttle if you want to do that, thumb throttle. Okay, so I prefer to use the thumb throttle. Now, I have bikes that have a throttle on the left-hand side, and I have bikes that have the throttle on the right-hand side. Now, I started out on the right, but then I had to get used to it really quickly because my bikes started getting them on the left-hand side. Yeah, it takes you back a little bit. You have to try to retrain your brain that if you want to throttle up, you got to now use your left hand instead of your right hand. I think the first time I did it, took me a while, especially when you're under the gun and you're trying to get out of a situation, you want to throttle up and get out of there, and you can't remember which hand has the throttle. Yeah, it took a while to get used to that, but I did get used to it. I just kept thinking to myself, I just hope nothing major comes up where I have to instinctively grab the throttle and I go on my right hand side when the thing is sitting on my left. Okay, I think it was the Area 13 bike that had the left-hand throttle first. I think that was the first one that had that. So I think I've had two bikes. What's the other bike? Oh, okay, the Vanpowers. I'm looking it off on the side here. The Vanpowers Day also has a left-hand throttle. Now you could put that on the right. In fact, they don't even mount the throttle for you. They leave it off altogether, and then you decide if you want the throttle. You decide where you want to put it. But realistically, based on the fact that it has trigger shifters from Shimano on your right-hand side, it was just easier to put it on the left-hand side. And I had already gotten used to the Area 13 Blackbird having a left-hand throttle, so I was able to go back and forth. So I am now ambidextrous, at least as far as throttles are concerned. Now, some of you may not even use a throttle, okay? If you have a Class 1 bike, you have no throttle. I have the Magicycle commuter bike that has no throttle, and I thought I would miss it, but I really didn't. In fact, I kind of like that bike because it's so simplistic. It doesn't even have gears. It's a single speed. It's got belt drive. It's only 43 pounds and it goes 20 miles an hour. What has it got? Is that a 500 watt motor, 350 watt motor? I don't know what it has. I'll have to look up the spec and put it on there for you. But it only has a 7 amp hour battery. Now, because of the fact that the motor is so small, it doesn't need a huge battery to get you 20-something miles of range. I get 23 miles when I pedal on pedal assist level 1 or 2. And 1 or 2 will get me to 20 miles an hour. So I find out I don't even really need to go to 3, 4, or 5 if I don't really want to. But I try it on 3 sometimes. But no, I could do 1 and 2. So it's a lighter weight bike. Doesn't have a throttle. It's Class 1. It's got belt drive. You can't hear anything. There's no noise coming out of that bike. You don't hear a motor, barely. And there's no chain on there. There's no derailleur on there. There's nothing, right? In fact, I think that bike is selling right now for $899 at Magicycle. So if you're looking for a basic, no frills, under 50-pound e-bike that can do 20 miles an hour and you don't care there's no throttle, pure class 1 bike, lightweight, has a 1.25-inch thin tires. I think it's 27-inch tall thin tires. It comes in a step over or a step through design. I think the blue one is step through. The yellow one and the black one, I have a black one, are step over versions. It's like $899. I mean, if you haven't gotten an e-bike and you're looking for an e-bike and you don't want to spend over $1,000, consider that one, okay? If you're used to riding like your old 10-speed bikes, remember those things? There's no speeds on this thing, okay? It's just single speed, but it's thin tires is what I'm saying. Thin frame, thin everything, all right? So yeah, works out real good. So get back to throttles, okay? So no throttles on that bike. So I can do without a throttle on that bike, but I think on the larger bikes, the heavier bikes, I need that throttle. Yeah, I don't really care if it's on the left or right at this point. I used to think right hand is the only way to go. Not anymore. I can do both. Okay. So what about this whole thing with the twist throttle versus the thumb throttle? Now I know some people like the twist throttle. It's like a tongue twister. They like the twist throttle and they want it on their right hand side. Why? Because they're used to it. I mean, some of us had driven motorcycles before, not me, and they're used to that. Okay. But for me, it tended to tire out my wrist, just kind of trying to hold it in a certain position for a certain speed. It was kind of hard. I found it easier for me to use my thumb to do that. Now, others have told me that their thumb tires out when they do it. They want the half twist throttle. Well, I guess everyone's whatever you're used to, really. Yeah. So for me, it was just easier with the thumb throttle. But yeah. And if you get one of the accessory devices where you can just put it on top of your half twist throttle like I do, you can go back and forth. You can take it off, you can put it on, you can do whatever you want. You could even replace that half twist throttle. You can replace it with a dedicated thumb throttle. I mean, they sell those. Go on Amazon, you can find them. And then of course you'll probably have to change the right hand grip because it'll be a half grip, right? Once you put that other device, because it's smaller. The half twist throttle is a wider device. So, but you can do it. I mean, they have them available. You can do it if you wanted to do that. Or like I do, the simplest way is leave the throttle alone. Just put the 3D printed thing on there and use that and turn that into a thumb throttle that way. So, but yeah, some people do one, some people do the other. Okay. Now, I typically use my throttle a lot. All right. When I first start out the bike, I'm throttling. Yeah. The very first, I hop on the bike, I immediately throttle to get it moving. And especially if I'm going across an intersection, I find it's easier for me to step up on the pedal. All right. Just to step up so I can sit onto the saddle. And as I'm stepping up on the pedal to sit on the saddle, I throttle. And that moves my bike forward, and then I'm ready to go. Then I can start pedaling if I want to, okay? Many times I don't. Many times I bring it up to the speed that I need, and then I just keep pedaling after I've hit a certain speed. Now, others will tell you that that's not the right way to do it. You need to pedal, and you need to use your shifters, your derailleurs, right? Your derailleur shifter, okay? Yeah, I don't do that. I typically leave my shifter at level 6 or 7, usually 6 more often than not, if I have a 7-speed option. And then I'll throttle up until I get enough of speed where I can now start pedaling that matches what a level 6 would give me in terms of resistance on the pedal. That's how I do it, okay? Now, others who have mid-drive bikes, you have to pedal, right? In fact, you have to pedal and shift before you deal with things. So, like, in other words, you don't want to shift and push down on the pedal at the same time, right? You got to learn the technique, otherwise you're going to rip out that whole mid-drive. So, if you're a mid-drive guy, you probably know how to deal with it. If you're not a mid-drive guy and you're coming over from a hub motor and then you're moving to a mid-drive, you're going to learn all over again how to do this. And you got to be careful because you don't want to strip those gears out, okay? So it's a more of a learning curve, I think, with the mid-drive. And I know these guys are going to jump all over me who are mid-drive guys. I've never tried a mid-drive bike, admittedly. I don't know whether I really want one at this point. I'm so used to the hub drives, and they seem to do fine for me. And the fact that I use the throttle a lot and I don't even use the gears a whole lot, I may not be really a good candidate for a mid-drive. But I would try one. If a manufacturer made one and gave it to me and just said, try this out and review it, I would try it. And maybe eventually I would learn how to use it properly. But people will tell you that the mid-drive bike will get you over a hill a lot better. It's a lot more torque on those things. So, but you got to know how to use your gears, okay? So, like for instance, my wife, she never even uses the gears. I don't think she's ever moved it out of gear 6. It's been sitting on that for forever. I don't think she ever touches it. And I try to tell her, you have to, if you're going up a hill, you need to give it a little bit of help. You got to pedal a little bit. Move the gear down. I don't think she even does that. A lot of people don't. They don't know how to do it. I don't think she's ever known how to use her gears. I mean, she had a Schwinn Varsity when she was growing up, still in our basement. Yeah, what do we got? I think we got 4 or 5 bikes in the basement, okay, besides the e-bikes. Those are our standard non-e-bike type bikes that we've had over the years. I have a Giant mountain bike. She has a Trek hybrid, and then her Schwinn Varsity's down there, and there's also a Trek hybrid downstairs. There's 4 bikes down there. Yeah. So yeah, it's getting out of control at Bike Central here. we have bikes downstairs, and then we got all the e-bikes that are upstairs. It's just crazy. Oh, let me tell you a story. I'll get off topic for a second here. Yeah, my neighbor came over. She had Presta-Valves on her son's bike, and she had never used Presta-Valves before, and kind of messed up the Presta-Valves. So we needed to swap out the inner tubes on the front and back of the bike. These are not e-bikes. This is just an inexpensive bike that she said that she bought at Dick's, and surprisingly, it had quick release in the front and the back. That made it a lot easier to change out the inner tubes in the front and the back. And but here's the thing that I noticed. I was doing it for her, and then she was watching and learning how it's being done. And I said, in case you ever have that problem again, you'll know how to do it. Or you just come running over and say, Russ, can you help me? Then I'll do it for you. But yeah, she was watching, she was learning, she helped out a little bit too. So the thing that I found interesting was how lightweight that bike was. Yeah, if you don't have a motor and all that stuff on there, and it's not an e-bike, man, that thing weighed nothing. It felt like it weighed nothing. But now, I would say that if you go back and think about what a racing bike was back in the day, you're talking racing bikes, what are they, about maybe 21, 22, 23 pounds, something like that. This one was heavier than that, okay? We'll say that. It's not as heavy as my mountain bike that I had in the basement. But it was so lightweight that when I picked it up and I flipped it over so I could get to the wheels, I go, wow, this thing weighs nothing. It was like, I wasn't used to it, okay? I mean, my heaviest bike right now is about 90 pounds. Yeah, I'm not kidding. It's pretty heavy. So you contrast it to that bike, I said, wow, this is like nothing. So yeah, we changed out the inner tubes because the two Presta-Valves got messed up when she was trying to pump it up and everything. So yeah, she'd never used a Presta-Valve before, so she didn't know how to do it, and you got to unscrew this little cap looking thing, and kind of messed it up. So I told them, I said, the best thing to do, I mean, some people change out the valves, but we looked at it and said, man, that's difficult too. So easiest thing to do is just change out the entire inner tube. But let's put some fresh ones in there. That way the kid will have no problems with it down the road. Okay. So yeah, it was easy enough to do. I didn't have any problems with it. Okay. And it was faster than dealing with the e-bikes. Now I've taken off the tires on the e-bikes before. I've swapped out tires. I've rotated tires. So I've taken off both front and back tires. And in the back, for an e-bike, yeah, you don't have a quick release. Yeah, you need, was it an 18 millimeter wrench? You have to undo the whole thing. I was ready to do battle with her son's bike. But no, he had a quick release on the back too. So I said, man, this is going to be a piece of cake. We just took it right off, stuck it right back on. Had to move the chain around a little bit, right? That's the problem. And then his derailleur was set up properly. and but his brakes were a little bit off. The rear brake had too much play, right? So I fixed that up for him so that he had good tension again on his brakes. So he has mechanical disc brakes on that bike. So yeah, I was surprised. I don't know how much you told me it cost, 300. I don't know, something like that. But I was surprised that it had decent. Well, I don't know how decent the brakes are in comparison to ours. Ours are much better. But it had disc brakes and quick release in the front and back. Made it easy. Yeah. Anyway, that's about all I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to talk about the throttle issue, give you a little story about what I did yesterday, help out my neighbor. So anyways, if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. I'll talk to you guys next time.